Heck.
Hello.
Hi,
Welcome up. Are you 18 plus?
No, I don't fuck with pride. Fuck y'all niggers. God's the best in the world, bitch ass nigga. Fuck it, this whole.
That's how Christians act. Welcome up, guest. Are you 18 plus?
Yes, I'm 18 plus.
Wonderful. May we get your pronouns, please?
She, her.
Do you believe in a God?
Yes, I believe in God.
Which one?
Jesus.
Gotcha. So my friend Ace and my friend GM are going to have a conversation with you. Is that okay?
Yes.
Sweet.
Do you believe this God is all good?
Yes.
Do you believe he's all knowing?
Yes.
Would that include women's anatomy?
What do you mean?
With him being all knowing, that would include women's anatomy and how the woman's body works, right?
Of course. He created us.
Okay, so he would know that not all women bleed their first time?
Well, if he's the creator, then yeah.
Okay. So tell me why in Deuteronomy 22:13 through 21 it talks about stoning women who don't bleed on their wedding night.
Say the scripture again. Deuteronomy what?
Deuteronomy 22,
Sure.
13 through 21.
13 through 21. Do you want me to read it, or did you want me to read it quietly and then respond?
Read it quietly and then respond.
Okay, give me 1 second, okay?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so you're talking about the damsel. You're talking about two occasions here where either the man lied and said that she wasn't a virgin, but she was a virgin. So then he cannot put her away because he lied on her. And then the second occasion is if she lied and said that she was a virgin, but she wasn't one.
So I have a question for you. How did they
Sure.
test this?
What do you mean, how did they test it? When they had sex on their first marital night.
Okay. And what would have been on the cloth that they brought before the council?
Blood.
Okay. And what causes the blood during sex?
The hymen needs to be broken. The hymen.
Do you know how many women bleed their first time?
No, I don't, unfortunately. I can't answer that for you.
46% of women bleed their first time. 54% of women do not bleed their first time. Do you know why that statistic is?
No, I don't. I've never looked that up, so I wouldn't be able to give you that statistic.
Okay. So the reasoning behind this is because the hymen is very easy to break. It can break falling out of a tree, falling downstairs, lifting up heavy objects like the heavy pails of water that you had to lift up. It can break riding a donkey or riding a bike. Riding a donkey or riding a horse. I always say riding a bike, even though that is more present time, not past time. But the hymen is such an easy thing to break. Plus, some women are not born with a hymen. Sometimes the man's just too small for the hymen to be broken by them. Other times, it may take 2 or more times before the hymen can break. The hymen is it's very hard to determine what causes it to break and if it breaks the first time, because it's It's like a bone, right?
Yes.
You can break a bone doing a lot of things, and then you could do the same thing 300 times and never break a bone, and then on the 301st time, it breaks while you're doing the same thing the exact same way. That's like the hymen. So, what I'm getting at is the test they had,
Yes.
which
You're
God gave,
basically saying it wasn't a good test. That's what you're
it was
saying.
not a good test by any means.
Okay. Which I
Plus,
can understand why you say that. I can understand why you say that. But can I ask you guys a question?
yeah, go for it.
Like, do you believe that do you believe that God loves everybody?
I don't believe in the Abrahamic God. I'm a
Mhm.
polytheist.
Oh, so you believe in multiple gods?
I do.
Okay.
Red and Decon up here are both atheists, which means they do not have a belief in a god. They do not have proof of there being a god.
Okay.
To answer the question, though, if God
Yeah.
is real, I do not believe that he loves everybody.
Why do you feel that way?
Because what the book says. For example, the way it talks about women, the way that it promotes and condones slavery,
Yeah.
the way that it puts down kids. There's
Now I have
a
a question.
there's just a lot in there that's very problematic, in my opinion.
Now, if we were to all right, so if we were to subtract the book, right, for this conversation purposes, and I would say, like, have you guys ever tried to like pray to the Abrahamic God without the interference of the book, right? But just to have like relationship with him where you're talking to him like how you and I are talking. Have you guys ever tried that?
18 years.
Okay.
Yes.
I was raised.
I
I
mean,
was raised Christian. I was raised
Yeah.
Christian. Most of us I think, Brett and Decon were both raised Christian as well. So for 18 years.
15 years, something like that.
Wow. Okay. So do you guys feel like and I'm just, these are just questions I have, honestly.
Yeah,
Like, I don't condemn anybody. Like, I honestly would just want to know y'all experience, right? So do you feel like you ever like pray to God and there's prayers that you've asked him for and he hasn't answered, or have there been times when you've asked God to reveal himself to you guys and it hasn't happened?
It never once happened.
Yeah. Way too many times and it never happened.
So
Okay.
a little backstory on me. I was raised in a very shitty situation. And when I say shitty, I mean I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
Yes.
And it wasn't until I stopped believing in him that I was able to find my way out of the situation. Once I stopped believing in him and realizing that there was nobody that was gonna come and save me or help me through it, is the moment I got enough strength to get out of the situation myself.
Okay, I understand. I mean, I understand where you guys are coming from. Like, I do believe in God. You know, God has answered my prayers, and you know, I do have a relationship with God. And I don't want you guys to feel like all Christians are like condemning or, you know, be like, oh, you're going to hell, because we're not all like that, and that's not what God called us to be. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I don't know you guys, but I would love for you guys to experience what I have experienced if God sees fit, if it's in his will for y'all life, which I believe it is. And I just pray that you guys are able to, you know, come across more people who are, as you know, respectful and understanding of the things that you guys went through, and the things that has let you down. And that's just my prayer for you guys. So I thank you for allowing me to come up here and talk with y'all. Y'all, you know, y'all wasn't mean to me and I wasn't mean to y'all. You know, some of these panels can be crazy at times, but I thank you for giving me the ability to hear you guys out and hear your story. So thank you so much.
I do appreciate you being respectful. I can't tell you how many people come up here and are just What? We've already had 3 people come up here that it was just, ugh,
Oh yeah,
gross.
yeah. I will say confidently that your respect and attitude towards us is 1 out of 1,000 for sure, and that's probably on the low end.
Yes,
The
and
1,000.
yeah, and because we all, we're all struggling with things. None of us are, I hate when people come up here and misrepresent who God is, but we're all struggling with things, and I respect y'all, and I wish you guys all the best of luck. And this might sound weird, but I love y'all, and I pray that you. I know y'all say you shouldn't pray for me. It's just my language, but I just pray that you guys' journey is blessed, and have a wonderful day.
Have a wonderful day, Michaela.
Bye bye.
Are you 18 plus? Welcome up, guest. Are you 18 plus? Welcome up, Sean. Are you 18 plus?
Yes, I'm 54.
Wonderful. May we get your pronouns, please?
Me.
Okay, which
Or
ones do you
him.
identify as? Him. Gotcha. Do you believe in a God?
Yes.
Which one would that be?
The Creator, the Heavenly Father.
So God of the Bible, God of the Quran, God of the Torah,
God of the Bible.
of the Bible. Gotcha. So my friend Ace and my friend GM are going to have a conversation with you. Is that okay?
What?
My friend Ace and my friend GM are going to have a conversation with you. Is that okay?
That sounds fine with me.
Wonderful.
Okay. So, are you okay? Do you believe your God is all good?
Yes.
I do believe he's all knowing.
What?
Do you believe he is all knowing?
Yes, He's all knowing. He knows what we're doing. He knows what we do at day or night.
Okay, what's your opinion on slavery?
Slavery's not good.
Okay. Do you know Leviticus 25:39-46?
Yes, but you can't pin that on God.
It was a law given by God.
You got to blame it on the people, not God. You got to blame it on people.
It was a law given by God. He didn't say don't own people. He says if you want to own people, here's how you do it.
You don't know that came from God, so you can't do that.
Yes, you do. It shows in quite a few verses that was
That
allowed.
depends how you interpret it.
How do you interpret Deuteronomy 4:1 saying, these are the laws given to Moses by God?
You mean the 10 Commandments?
No. The 10 Commandments, no. These are the laws.
That was the laws that were given to Moses. 10 Commandments were given to Moses as the law.
So were the other 600.
But the main ones that God has us follow are the 10 Commandments.
Nope, 600.
That's what I follow.
No, God gave out 613 to Moses. He said follow all of them.
So here we go. Deuteronomy 4:1. So now, Israel, give heed to the statutes and ordinances that I am teaching you to observe, so that you may live to enter and occupy the land that the Lord, the God of your ancestors, is giving you. You must neither add anything to what I command you, nor take away anything from it, but keep the commandments of the Lord your God, with which I am charging you. You have seen for yourselves that the Lord did with regard to the Baal of Peor, how the Lord your God destroyed from among you everyone who followed the Baal of Peor, while those of you who held fast to the Lord your God are all alive today. And then it goes on to give laws, and more laws, and more laws, and more laws, and continue on and give more laws and more laws.
But we live on the laws of the Ten Commandments. Honor thy mother and thy father.
Yeah, so you
Have
can
no other god before me.
Wait. So you want to say honor thy mother and thy father, but it also says you are to unalive your children if they are disrespectful to you, and that's also in the new commandment. Would you like me to pull it up for you?
I don't believe in that verse. We should never put our children at harm's way. We should love our children.
That is not what the Bible says. Would you like me to?
But we can put the way we want to interpret it. But my version of the Bible is that we should honor our children.
So what you're saying is you don't take it from the Bible, because I can give you verses that say otherwise. So you have in the New Testament, mind you, not in the Old, Mark 7:10. For Moses said, "Honor your father and your mother, and whoever speaks evil of your father or mother must surely unalive." And Mark 9:42. If any of you calls one of these, hang on.
Yes, I've read that verse.
Matthew 18:6. Matthew 19:29. Romans 13:1-7. Hebrews 12.
Okay, wait a minute. Let me stop you right there for a minute.
Somebody decided they didn't want to talk to you anymore. Hi, are you over 18?
Hey, how you doing? Yeah, I am.
Okay, and can I get your pronouns, please?
Just he, him.
Okay. Are you a believer of a God?
I am.
Which one?
I'm Eastern Catholic.
Okay, so the God in the Bible?
Yes, that's right. You know, the Trinity, all that stuff.
Okay. And do you believe this God is all good?
Well, so, that's actually why I joined. I guess we'll start the discussion then. It's an interesting question to ask, is your God good? Because I guess that's the wrong claim, because you're asking if good has a meaning without him, and if good has a meaning with him. So I think that's an incorrect standard to go by in general, because that would presume that goodness is a measure that God will have to meet, which would put goodness above God. So what does that make it? That you're worshiping goodness over God. So then you have to ask yourself, well, then where does goodness come from? Because it's a standard that wouldn't be able to obligate anyone. So if goodness is a rule, then there must be a lawgiver. Otherwise, it can't be a rule.
Do you think there's only Christians in the world?
No, I don't think there's only Christians in the world. That wouldn't make any sense.
Okay, so you know about polytheists and Muslims and all that, right?
Yeah, I'm actually my family's from Iraq. So yes, I know Muslims.
Okay, so you know there's other belief systems, right?
Yes.
Okay. So is there anywhere on this prompt that specifically states a deity, or is your God good? Talking about the God you believe in, is he good?
You're asking if is your God good, but anyone who believes in a God couldn't be able to place goodness over their God. Otherwise, how would their God be good?
And that is a false claim.
What? So why is that? Maybe I don't understand the premise of your question then.
So a lot of, if you ever ask a polytheist if their God is good, they'll say no. The reasoning why is because polytheists believe their gods are like a yin-yang. That they're not all good, but they're not all bad. They're balanced. In the Abrahamic belief system, however, they believe that their God is all good.
Yes, I understand what you're saying now. So you're saying that well, I guess then I'll have to ask you the question then. Are you wondering if all gods are good? Well, I mean, obviously not all. We know not everyone believes all gods are are good, right? Some gods in like Greek gods, maybe they did bad things or whatever. But I mean, I don't, that's not something I mean,
Do you believe your God is all good? Personally, do you
well,
believe your God is all good?
so, frankly, I believe that the Christian God, if that's what you're asking, is goodness Himself. It says this in the Bible. But I want to answer your question actually about are all gods good? Because it's
I know
almost the
the
same
answer
as.
to that question.
Sorry, go on.
I know the answer to that question. I am going to let deconstruction take over for a minute. I gotta go do something real quick.
Okay.
Deconstruction, you there?
I am definitely here.
Okay, have a conversation.
Okay, so where were we at? We're defining of God, worshiping good over God.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. I don't think it makes sense to ask, is your God good? I guess in the context of Christianity, because that would place the definition of goodness over God, but that's just not possible. I,
Why not?
well, because if good or bad is a rule, doesn't that mean that there has to be a rule maker? It wouldn't make any sense. It would treat him as less than. It would treat God lower than the rule that humans create. That humans judge things by. But that doesn't make any sense.
I don't think good is a rule. I think it is an objective measure in which we look at things around us. We define it as good or evil or in between.
So you don't think goodness is a human preference? So you do think it's subjective?
Well, I mean, who would define good or evil if humans never existed? Who would define that?
If humans never existed, so
Good or evil exist?
let me formulate an answer for you. That's an interesting question. So I guess the answer would be that goodness isn't a rule that anyone writes. That is what I'm saying. So that's why this statement isn't. I don't think it makes sense because if you take humans out, nothing will change. Truth doesn't need, like someone to know the truth for it to be true. It's still going to be the truth. So, like, if all humans didn't exist, does that? I'll give you an example. Actually, like, does 2 + 2 = 4? I mean, obviously, we all agree 2 + 2 = 4. That rule always applies before humans
Well,
and after humans.
not in all cases, because sometimes 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4.
Yeah, I mean, you get the point though.
Yeah, but with that, good was we as humans define good. It is subjective because what one person may think is good, another person may not. Now we can objectively say certain things are good and certain things are bad objectively, but the very concept or nature of quote unquote good could mean two entirely different things between you and I. You might think unaliving people for any reason is a bad thing, but I might think, well, if somebody screws with my family and I unalive them, I might say that's a good thing. So the concepts of good and evil are human constructs, but I don't think that there would be good or evil without humans to even come up with that concept in the first place. I mean, dogs don't know good and evil. Cats don't. Lions, tarantulas, they don't have that concept of good or evil. They just have their instincts and whatever else they operate on. So no humans,
Yeah,
no good. There's no evil.
that's an interesting point. But I think it's difficult to. I think it's wrong, honestly, to say that some things are objective and some are subjective. And it might be just that we're discussing, so you framed it that way, but I'm not saying that's actually how you would typically frame it or anything, because 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 if some things are subjective and some are objective, then what makes something objective in virtue of what? So, would it be, are you saying like, oh, it's just self-evident? You know, because if it's just self-evident, that's the beginning of theism. And then if suffering is objectively bad, for example, because that's usually an argument, suffering, um, maybe evolution explains why we feel like murder is wrong, but it doesn't give a reason for why it is wrong. It's just a feeling. And a feeling is not an obligation. So basically, if moral instinct is just wiring, that's like ignoring a craving. We crave things, but not violating a law. And that's different. And if you're wondering about human consensus, that's also not objective. I'll give you an example. If 90% of people agree tomorrow that a minority should be exterminated, kind of like Nazi Germany, that's a standard that people agreed is right. But that doesn't make it. But obviously, you and I agree that that's objectively wrong. But they didn't at the time. They agreed that it was objectively. A lot of people agreed it was objectively right. But you and I know that there is something in us that tells us it's wrong. How could that be? So it doesn't make sense to say some things are subjective and objective. What I'm saying is, I think there is a rule of law written in all of our hearts, and we can violate those rules, which means there must be a rule maker. Which means the question is your God good? Well, that question can't go above the rule maker, meaning that there must be a rule maker. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, I guess. For a black, hopefully that makes sense. I know I spoke a lot. I'm trying to frame it all.
When you look at certain activities, there are things that I say are objectively wrong, and maybe that's subjective, but I believe that are objectively wrong, like grape and using grape as a form of punishment. Pretty much everyone you meet will objectively say that's wrong because it's causing harm. Like the whole point of it is to cause hurt and pain and suffering. That's the whole purpose of it. I mean, it's sure, the motivations are power or greed or lust or whatever have you, but still, you and I and almost everybody, except for quite a few Christians I've met, unfortunately think that, or we fortunately think that is objectively wrong. However, smurder, not everybody views smurder as smurder, like the people of sent these islands. If you go on their island, they're going to unalive you and eat you. And I think that's cool. That's great.
Deconstruct. I have a question.
Came to your neighborhood.
Go on. Sure. Should I ask it now then? Because you made a strong point about, well, it sounds like you named your standard, like a standard, right? Harm, pain, suffering. But I think that does not answer why suffering is wrong, because us disliking it or saying it's bad for society does not make it bad, does not necessarily make it wrong. Because I'll give you an example. Like, if we're all matter and energy or whatever, why does an arrangement of matter having, in our eyes, a bad experience place an obligation on another arrangement of matter? Why do we owe anything else anything? Rocks don't owe each other anything. Are they not also an arrangement of matter? Neither do stars. So there is somewhere between an object like a rock and the human being that an obligation appeared. You agree with that because you're saying we can determine some things are wrong. So where is it that an obligation appeared? How is it that you also think that people have worth? Obviously I agree people have worth, and it sounds like you agree people have worth, but we're all arrangements of matter. So why is it that we have, why is it that an obligation appeared that we have worth? How is it that harm matters, basically, if the thing being harmed matters? And also, I guess to my second point, sometimes I think even you would agree suffering is sometimes good, not bad. And I'll give you an example. A surgeon doing a surgery, especially in older times, maybe they have to do a little bit of suffering, before, especially before like anesthesia or something, in order to, fix the patient, whatever. Or maybe chemotherapy. I mean, chemotherapy is like a poison, radiation, but there's a purpose for the suffering. So we can't. So it's clear to me that we can't use harm as a measure. All of these are harmful, are suffering, and so that means there must be something above harm that sorts good pain from bad pain. So that brings the other question. So then, what is it? It's not. I don't think it's intent or consent, because and even if it was, that means the standard isn't suffering either. And then then we also have to ask: does harmless evil exist? Is there harmless evil? Not all evil maybe is harmful. So, like, for example, what if a man hates his wife his whole life but never does anything, and she dies happy? Maybe she never even knows that he hates her, and they end up having he doesn't do anything. Nobody gets harmed in this case. Or like if someone betrays a friend who never finds out that they were betrayed, or like let's say this man cheats on his wife and is never caught, everyone stays happy. So if we only use pure harm as a calculator, they're fine. These examples come out fine, better than fine, because they preserve their happiness, even though harmless evil was conducted. But obviously, you and I both know that they're wrong for that. For cheating on your wife is a wrong thing. Unless there was consent, maybe we would agree. Or I don't know.
I don't think the evil is harmless. I think maybe they just didn't. It was undiscovered evil, but it doesn't make it harmless, because if it was discovered, it would immediately become harmful. So I think that all evil is inherently harmful.
Okay, I like your answer. So you're saying that the wife who died without ever knowing her husband cheated on her, she was harmed somehow, but it's undetected. That's what you're saying. Or like if your friend lied to you, but you never know, you're still harmed.
You could say it. Yeah, you could say it's harmless because she didn't find out. But what would have happened if she had found out? Would he have unalived her because she didn't find out, or she found out? Would he?
Yeah.
Have,
So you're
would
saying
it cause
harm
like
exists
abuse to the
independently.
children? I think that evil is inherently harmful. That's why many of us call it evil, is because it is inherently harmful. There's no escape around the harmfulness of it. It's just whether the harmful nature affects a collateral existence. So, I mean, you could do evil all day, but if it doesn't harm anybody, it just means nobody's discovered the harm it's caused or can cause. So, I mean, there are plenty of stories of men who cheat on their wives and go on for years about it. But then when their wives find out about it, then they unalive their wives. So it is harmful. It's just whether or not that person discovers the harm or not. And I don't think pain is evil. I think it can be the side effect of doing evil. But pain isn't inherently evil. I mean, some people enjoy pain. Maybe sometimes some people like legitimately use pain in their extracurricular activities and they enjoy it. So pain is separate from evil. It can be the outcome of evil actions. But I don't think some suffering may be necessary in the fact of, chemo or, smallpox shots or things like that. But I don't view that as much as quote unquote unsuffering as a byproduct of treatment or things like that. And it sucks and hurts, but it's not the intention to cause that hurt. It's the intention to hopefully circumvent other hurt from a legitimate standpoint.
Right.
So, but when you come to is my God
I guess that's
evil?
I guess it's
Or
different
is
than
my...
cheating.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go on the concept of is my God good, then you look at the actions that or describe this so-called, God in the Bible or whatever book you want to use. Christianity is what I default to because that's what I spent 40 years doing. And a God who says, don't touch my things or I'm going to unalive you, that doesn't seem like a good act. Like Uzzah was just trying to stop the tablets from falling off the cart when the donkey jolted, and God immediately just poofed, unalived him for it. That doesn't seem like a good thing. You would think the all-knowing God, even though he's like, don't touch my stuff, would go like, hey, this dude was trying to, stop my stuff from breaking. I'm not going to unalive him, but he just touched it and stopped it from falling off the cart. And God was like, no, poof, you're done. Or God sending 2 bears to spend the next hour unaliving children. I don't think that is the actions of a God who can be classified as good. Or the grape laws, or drowning trillions of animals because a bunch of humans were supposedly doing it with angels. I don't think that's a good act either. I think that negates... I don't think it negates the good, but I don't think that the good outweighs that in any way.
Yeah, deconstruction, I think this is very interesting. I'm actually going to look at, bring you an example from my culture. I'm from Iraq, right? In my culture, we were, the Assyrian Empire, probably the Assyrian Babylon Empire. We used to throw people off cliffs. We were like brutal savages. At one point, we were the first, like, largest empire on earth, and we were
It
brutal.
was never cliffs, by the way.
I'm sorry?
It was never cliffs. They never threw anybody off cliffs. Now, you're getting into something I have been researching for the past month. It was
You said Assyrians never threw people off cliffs? Yeah, we threw all of our elderly off cliffs.
No.
Okay, I don't know how to answer you. I mean, it's in my culture. Anyway.
Econ, what have I been researching for the past month?
She has been researching that stuff in that area. She knows way more. I haven't researched that.
I'm talking about before Christ, by the way.
This was much before Christ. That's why you have the Code of Ur-Nammu, you have the Code of Lipit-Ishtar, you have the Code of Hammurabi. My bad, I said it wrong.
Yeah, Hammurabi, yeah.
It started off with the Code of Ur-Nammu, then it went to the Code of Lipit-Ishtar, then it went to the Code of Hammurabi. Right now, I am looking into the Code of Hammurabi.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of information on practices that were practiced. I have a bunch of information on their beliefs. I have a bunch of information on, like, the world creation story and the flood stories that they had. And I have information on the human creation stories, but never once has anything about elderlies getting thrown off cliffs. No.
Yeah. I mean, you could just look it up. It should come up on just an internet search. Did the Assyrian Empire, what did they do with their elderly, or how violent were they? They were.
I can tell you exactly what happened with the elderly. The community had to take care of them until they naturally passed away.
I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you could ask anyone in my culture. We have our own history. I know ISIS has tried to blow up a lot of our history, but we still have a lot of our history. Anyway, I think this is besides the point. What I'm saying, deconstruction. I guess my question is, what measure then is something evil? Because then you'd be saying that there is an objective wrongness, but then what's the grounds for an objective wrongness? And because even if you accuse God of being wrong, you were saying in the Old Testament, the Christian God being wrong in the Old Testament, I guess on what grounds are you saying that it's wrong? How do you have a grounds for so could it ever? I guess the question becomes, maybe it's never subjective, or that's the answer, right? Wouldn't it always be objective?
I could ask. Let's say you get mad one day and you're just hanging out here. Somebody pisses you off, does something that you don't like them doing. Would you immediately resort to drowning puppies?
Well,
would that be ever in your outcome? Okay. Well, let's go back to it. If a kid calls, like you're hanging around, And this kid calls this other guy like an idiot. Like you're passing by school, kid calls a guy an idiot. Would you unleash two hungry ass bears to go into that playground and just maul all the children?
No, no.
Why not?
Well, I mean, obviously, because I think it's wrong.
Okay, so why do we special plead when it comes to God that he gets to get away with murdering children because they call the man bald, but yet you and I understand that it's wrong to feed bears to children? Or feed children to bears, my bad. That'd be really weird back way. Feed children to bears. Why do we view it as wrong, but for God it's okay?
Well, I think there's a part of a.
I'm listening. I'm here.
I guess like a child, disobeying maybe his parents and being incredibly upset for thinking their parents are incorrect. But let's say the argument they're objectively correct. Is the child right in that context? I mean, we would. How can the child determine that they are right for their feelings? I guess also the passion of human is probably different than the passion of Christ. Does I mean, even in the Bible, by the way, it talks about those things. It says that his heart was grieved. It wasn't Lord regretted making man and his heart was grieved, not rage. So I guess there's a difference in that. And also there was lawlessness at the time. And that's the whole reason for the New Testament. Like I'm not Jewish, so I don't, the Old Testament is not something we abide by anymore. It's the New Testament. That's why that's the point of the death, burial, and resurrection. This is the new way of life. Jesus says, you love everyone, all this kinds of things. And so, and Christ said that there is a baptism with which I must be baptized, and how great is my anguish until it is accomplished. So like the flood prefigures the baptism. So the water that drowned the world is the water that saves it because he went under it first. So I guess the question is whether he's like a man who, when the flood came, put himself in the water and pulled everyone else at, I guess that's God in the text.
Yeah, but God is the cause of all these problems. Like, I mean, in what realm did a so-called good God go, all right, a few humans out there are getting it on with angels. I'm going to drown trillions of animals for it. Trillions. And drowning wouldn't have been an immediate thing. It would have been they're suffering for a bit before they drown. So, like, how is that even, like, how is it that a God can go from people, the angels he let come down to earth, he knew they were impregnating humans, he knew all these things were going along, and then he was just like, I'm going to drown puppies for this. That doesn't strike me as anything that could be remotely good. And even you admit that drowning puppies is a bad thing, yet for God it's not. Or let's go to the Pharaoh story. Pharaoh was surrendered. He was done. He called Aaron and Moses and he said, I'm done. I give up. God, please just take your people and get the hell out. God said, no, I'm going to harden your heart. You're not going to want to let them go. Now I'm going to unalive babies. So God had the opportunity to dodge suffering, to avoid it, to prevent it. And instead he orchestrated the very mechanisms which led to suffering. I mean, the Adam and Eve story, if Jesus was ordained to come, if God knew Jesus was going to come, then the Adam and Eve story is completely irrelevant because Adam and Eve had to bite the apple. The people had to screw the angels. Pharaoh had to do all this. Judas at that point is a hero because he did exactly what God built him for. But we all suffer. We still all. Jesus died for what? To forgive our sins, but suffering is worse now, I would imagine, because there's more people and there's more suffering. We learned better ways to make people suffer. So it's like things got worse after Jesus. And God had the ability to stop all of it. God has the ability to wave his hand and make things better. Like, if I came to you tomorrow and I said, here's a button, and this button will cure cancer in all the children in the world at once. No child ever will suffer cancer again because you press this button. It's not going to cost you anything. There's going to be no labor behind it. There's no repercussions. You just do it. Would you press that button or would you not press that button?
You said a lot of things. I think they're slightly different, but as the way you tied them together, they're actually, I agree with you. They are all tied together. So I kind of want to start from the beginning. You mentioned the Pharaoh's heart.
Yeah, the Pharaoh's heart where he gave up and God said, no, you don't get to give up.
Yeah, so in Exodus, I think it's chapter 8 and 9. He did not install cruelty in Pharaoh. I think it's very clear that God kept pressing, and it says that Pharaoh hardens his heart 3 times before God is ever said to harden it, and then God says that I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and God handed them over. So
yeah, but Pharaoh surrendered.
So Pharaoh had to reject. That's the same example actually for, well, I guess the apple is a little bit different, but I guess the answer for that is if they couldn't refuse. Are your question? I guess your question is it's kind of confusing me, because you're saying that they couldn't refuse. You're saying that Adam and Eve could not refuse, neither could Jesus refuse. But I actually think it is the opposite. That the fact that they could have chosen, to eat the apple, it is because God gave the ability for creatures to say no. And same thing with Judas. Actually, Jesus Christ said it himself for Judas. He said, woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would be better if that man had never been born. So if he were, if that was planned, he wouldn't be executing like a program, like it's not planned. Because woe wouldn't make any sense. It'd be incoherent. And better never be born is kind of disastrous. Obviously, God knew the betrayal would happen. So I agree with you.
But he needed it to happen. If Jesus was supposed to come back and Jesus was supposed to be betrayed and unalived, the very people who set that into motion had to do that, or there would have been no reason to bring Jesus. Because if there was no fallen world, quote unquote, Jesus wouldn't have been needed. If Adam and Eve had never bit the apple, they'd be immortal, hanging around butt naked in the garden, chilling out till this day, and none of us, the rest of us, would exist. If the people hadn't screwed around with angels, God wouldn't have flooded and said, I'm not going to flood again, and then tried over. If Judas had not betrayed Jesus, that Jesus would have never been betrayed, and we would have been, he would have been still living, and there would have been no resurection because he wouldn't have been crucified. So if Jesus' plan was, if it was planned for Jesus to come back, to come here to earth and die for our sins unalive, then everything evil that happened, God ordained it and God orchestrated to make sure it led to that final domino. Adam was just the first domino. And God was the one flipping the dominoes. I mean, he couldn't have gotten to the end if he wouldn't have gotten to the start.
Deconstruction. Yes.
Your time is up. Up. I appreciate you coming up.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you for coming up.
This is really interesting.
And you're welcome to come back another day.
Yes.
Ace is awesome and does it every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. And since you came up and you had a good attitude and you were respectful and you just discussed things, I'm sure we would be happy to have you back.
Yeah,
Yes,
super nice.
absolutely.
I appreciate you guys both. Thank you very much. Have a good one.
Appreciate you being respectful.
Welcome up, Ghost. Are you 18 plus?
Hey y'all. Yeah, I'm 28.
Wonderful. May we get your pronouns, please?
Yeah, she.
We. Do you believe in a God?
I do.
Which one?
The Christian God, Yahweh.
Gotcha. My friend Ace and my friend Sephiroth are going to have a conversation with you. Is that okay?
That's perfectly fine. Hey guys.
Hi. Do you believe your God is all good?
Yes, I do.
Do you believe he's all knowing?
Yes, he is.
Okay. Uh, what is your opinion on slavery?
Yeah. And so are you talking about like the slavery in the Bible?
Yeah.
Yes. So I'll just preface this by saying that I'm African American, and that was a question that I had, like, is chattel slavery in the Bible? Basically what was done to my ancestors. I don't believe that it is. I think that in Exodus 21:16, it says that if anybody like kidnaps a person and forces them to be a slave, that carries like capital punishment. What
Have
I
you
do,
looked at Leviticus 25:44 through 46, where it shows that you can go out to the nations around you and you can get slaves and they are to be your property and you are to pass them down from generation to generation?
yes. However, they cannot be kidnapped. So it says also in that verse in Exodus
Okay,
that,
wait.
yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Did the slaves that the Americans get, were they not sold to them?
Yeah.
Okay, so they didn't kidnap them, they bought them.
No. So it talks about that too. My ancestors, they were kidnapped and sold, and that's what the verse says.
They were kidnapped and sold.
Yeah, like African American chattel slavery. We were kidnapped and sold. The slave trade, like
Okay,
there were like
so
slavers.
so the what the Americans had, right?
Yeah,
They bought the slaves from nations around.
correct. But first, those slaves were kidnapped.
Okay, but the people that they bought, they did
hmm
not kidnap the people they bought, right? They
no. So they didn't kidnap them themselves, but they bought kidnapped individuals. And the verse
okay,
says
so
anybody that kidnaps a person or buys a kidnapped person, right?
does it
Both
say
the
or buys?
kidnapper and the buyer. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Does it say or buys?
Yes, it does.
Which verse? Which verse?
It is Exodus 21.
Exodus 21. Which verse?
Exodus 21:16.
Exodus 21:16 says, "Whoever kidnaps a person, whether that person has been sold or is still held in possession, shall be put to unalivement." So it's not talking about like buying a kidnapped person. It's whoever kidnaps a person that has already been sold or is still held in possession. So you're not allowed to kidnap in general.
Yeah, if you actually go to the Greek, I forget what version it is, but it talks about like that person, whoever's found in the possession of that person, as well as the person that kidnaps that individual. And I'm mobile right now, but I can try to find that for you too.
Okay, can I ask what your definition of chattel slavery is?
Yeah, so like basically chattel slavery is like viewing the individual as less than human, like they are chattel, like they are your property, and like the same way that an animal can be your property. Like basically what was done to the Africans, my ancestors.
So, chattel slavery is a brutal system where one person has total ownership of another as personal property, right?
Yeah, we can say that.
So,
However, well, I'll make
Leviticus.
one correction. I would say that African slavery is just a bit different, only because of the fact that it viewed us like, unfortunately as animals, and like that made it a totally different beast. But that's my only correction.
So, but slavery, it's bad no matter what type of slavery it is, right?
It depends on what you mean by slavery. I think that the Bible talks about,
Owning somebody as property
yeah,
as a
yes,
possession is bad, right?
Well, so I think it depends on the circumstance. For example, you could not kidnap somebody. So that means that they would have to be, there's other reasons why they're a slave. For example, if they're a criminal, right? That person
So,
will become a
so what
slave.
the
Do
verses
you
I
mind if
bring
I
up,
finish?
Leviticus
Sister?
25, 44 through 46, it doesn't say that they're prisoners of war. It says that they are first of all, the aliens residing, or as it quotes, aliens residing um in the community, as well as the nations around you.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not saying that that specific verse is talking about that. I'm just talking about all possibilities of slavery, that you can be a prisoner, somebody that, commits a crime. You can, like how you said, be a prisoner of war, or you can be somebody that has sold yourself into slavery. That is the only way that you could be biblically a slave. Like, biblical, whatever, like the way that God will allow it.
So selling yourself into it is indentured servitude, which is outlined in Leviticus 25:39 through 46, and that's specifically for the Hebrews. In Leviticus 25:44 through 46, which is what I was specifically referencing as of right this second. Do you have a Bible on you, or would you like me to read it to you?
Yeah, you can read it because I'm mobile right now.
Okay. So, 44 through 46. As for the male and female slaves, whom you may have, it is from the nations around you that you may acquire male and female slaves. You may also acquire them from among the aliens residing with you, and from their families who are with you, who have been born in your land. They may be your property. You may keep them as a possession for your children after you, for them to inherit as property. These you may treat as slaves, but as for your fellow Israelites, no one shall rule over the other with harshness. So, owning people as property, we can both admit it's bad, right?
Yeah, well, it depends why they're a slave. Like, for example, if you take a regular person that did not sell themselves into slavery, is not a prisoner, and isn't like a criminal or anything like that, and you kidnap them, then yes, that's morally incorrect. You cannot do that. But if they are slave for a reason, then no.
So what does acquire mean?
To have something.
To obtain something, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we can both agree that acquire is to get something.
Correct. Yeah, to have something.
So you're currently jumping through 300 hoops. Does it say that they were prisoners of war?
No, it
In
doesn't.
Leviticus 25, 44 through 46. Okay.
No.
Does it say that they sold themselves or that they were acquired as slaves?
No, it doesn't. But it would necessitate that they would have to be one of the three, because of the fact that you cannot kidnap somebody and make them your slave. So these individuals are not kidnapped individuals. They fall, even though, I understand what you're saying, and you're right, it doesn't explicitly say it, but we can't view the text in a vacuum. We have to view it holistically. And by necessity, they would have to fall into one of these three, because you can't kidnap them.
So if another person kidnaps them, you do not know they have been kidnapped, right?
No, so yeah, no, they would tell, for example, the book of Philemon. Do you know about that? It's a slave that left, told the people that they went to, like, hey, I'm being mistreated, XYZ, I don't belong as a slave.
The book of Philemon?
Yeah. Or Philemon, I'm sorry. My friends correct me on it all the time. It's not Philemon, it's Philemon. But he was a slave, ran away, mistreatment, XYZ, and then he spoke out about his mistreatment, right, to the people that he ran away to. The idea is that if you were kidnapped and you are in possession, or no, an Israelite has possession of you, they, by law, they would have to give you up. They would have to, or I mean, face capital punishment, because being in possession of a kidnapped person and having them as a slave is a capital crime in Judaism. Can you hear me?
So, yes, I can hear you. Give me a
Oh,
second.
sorry. My bad.
So you're saying that in some cases, slavery is good. Owning people as property is good.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we do it today. For example, like the state owns prisoners as property. They're property of the state, right? Or wards of the state, however they want to say it, but they're slaves. That's what it is. Their will is being, like, they're held against their will. And we're all okay with it because of the fact that it's not that they were kidnapped, it's that they committed crimes in order to be slaves or prisoners, however you want to say it, right? The idea is still the same.
You can go out to the nations around you. Okay, I'm going to ask you something.
Yeah.
Okay. How did the Americans acquire slaves?
They bought them
From what?
from slavers. So like they would buy them from slavers. My history on it is choppy, but I think it was the like.
But what I'm saying is they bought them from the nations around them. Doesn't have to be directly around them, but they bought them from nations around them. So not their own nation, right?
America or
don't worry about
the Jews?
chat while you're up on the panel, please.
Oh, sorry, my bad. I read that. But did you say Americas or the Israelites?
America.
Yeah, they bought them, and I wouldn't say neighboring nations because that would be like Mexico.
I just said
Canada.
nations. I
Oh,
said
yeah.
nations. I didn't specify like neighboring nations.
My bad, I might have misheard you. But yeah, so they bought them from slavers, and the slavers came from different nations too. So yeah, I say so.
But it wasn't their own nation, right? They didn't like
Right.
buy their own people, right?
Yeah, you're right.
And when they bought them, they were their property, right?
Yeah.
That they passed down from generation to generation, right?
Yeah, but they were kidnapped.
But the American people did not kidnap them.
But it doesn't matter. If you read the,
Just like the Israelite people would not have kidnapped them, right?
No. So it also talks about being in possession of a kidnapped person. You cannot make a kidnapped person your slave. Like that has a capital punishment in Judaism. So it's like if you buy a kidnapped person, you can't do that either.
Would the Israelites know that about every kidnapped person?
Well, I mean, I'm assuming so, that person would say, hey, listen, I mean, I don't belong as a slave. It wasn't like individualistic society today. People knew each other. You couldn't really get anything past like the group of people you were traveling with.
You said that verse was Exodus what?
Exodus 21:16.
So the one that says whoever kidnaps a person. So like if you kidnap the person, right?
Exactly. Hold on, let me read the full verse for you.
I have it pulled up right here.
Yeah, give me 1 second, okay? So when you go to the 21 and then 16.
After you pull that up, I want to read you another section of verses.
Here's what it says. So it says, if you want to kidnap someone.
You're breaking up so bad.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you right now.
Can you hear me?
Your bars are
okay,
like going in and out.
Is it better now?
Yeah, right now it is.
Okay. So it says whether the victim has been sold or is still in the kidnapper's possession. So it doesn't matter, right? The status of.
But do you see that part where it says
the person
whoever kidnapped the person? You're breaking up again.
Yeah. How about now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you right this second. I have the verse
Hello?
pulled up, and I can hear you. I have the verse
It was
pulled
a
up.
lag. Is that better?
Yeah.
Right. Right. No, but here's what I'm saying is that you cannot buy a kidnapped person. You see what I mean? Like that's not allowed.
It's not
I'm not,
saying that in it's
you know,
not
owning other
saying
people isn't allowed. And
it's not saying that anywhere. It says whoever kidnaps a person, not whoever buys a kidnapped person. It just says whoever kidnaps a person, whether that person has been sold, held in possession, shall be put on alignment. Nowhere does it say you cannot buy a person. And if you continue farther down into Exodus 21, the same section you're reading, to verses 20 and 21, when a slave owner attracts a male or female slave with a rod, the slave alive immediately. He survives a day or two, and then I'm not.
Yeah. Beep boop ace
Can you
over
hear me
here.
now?
Keep going.
host, are you
Hear me
there?
now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. So Exodus 21, 20 through 21. I love when it does that when I'm in the middle of reading verses. When a slave
Right.
owner strikes a male or female, huh?
I said right.
When a slave owner strikes a male or female slave with a rod and the slave unalives immediately, the owner shall be punished. Oh, that's so cute! But if the slave survives a day or two, there is no punishment, for the slave is the owner's property. So giving permission to beat the slave as well.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And I think what the Bible does too is it what it does is it brings regulation to something that's lawless. For example, right? If you have a person that's a slave because they're a criminal and they're an indentured servant, well, no, they're just your slave because of the fact that they violated Levitical law. So, and they choose not to work, right? But the crime that they did was not like worthy of capital punishment. What do you do with them?
Israelites are not allowed to be treated as slaves. It says so in Leviticus.
No, I'm asking you, right? So like if you have a slave that somebody that committed a crime, but they didn't commit a capital crime, so that you don't unalive them, but they decide not to work, what do you do?
Do you not hear the loops you're jumping through to
Hey,
literally
listen,
give
I
a
have
good reason for slavery?
I have answered all 10 of your questions and like I just want you to answer that one for me because if you say that this is bad, right? Give me
I do
something
not
better.
think we should be allowed to beat people. I do not believe in punishment like that.
Well,
Unaliving rapists and murderers is one thing, but beating people, I never
so
would agree with. I would never even beat my own kids if I had them.
so tell me what they should do then.
For what exactly?
If there's a person that's a criminal, right? And obviously you're going to segregate them from the rest of the society, but they didn't commit a capital offense and they choose not to work. What do you do?
Even back then they had prisons.
No. So the Israelites, they were nomadic. They were nomadic people for several decades, traveling in the
You
wilderness, and they were
guys,
a theocracy. So no, they didn't have a prison.
holy fuck!
Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, I got distracted. Cedro kind of distracted me with that one. They had prisons.
No, they didn't. I'm telling you, they didn't. They were
Yes,
traveling
they
in the
did.
wilderness. While they were traveling in the wilderness for 40 years, they had prisons. It's all right if you don't, but just fact check that. I'm trying to
Yes.
tell you, they were nomadic. How did they have a prison when they were nomadic?
I don't need to
Am I
fact
breaking up
check
again?
it. I've been doing the research.
Okay, so tell me where the prison was held. Can you tell, like the ancient Israelites, the theocracy, where was the prison held? What was the location of that?
You think they have locations marked and they don't just say they had prisons?
No, so I'm since you're saying you made the claim
Do you
during the
think
time of
they tell
Moses and
us where the
Joshua.
prisons? Do you think they tell us where the prisons are at?
I'm asking you,
Because
can you tell
back
me if they
then
had them?
they had different landmarks than we do now. Like in Mesopotamia, ancient Mesopotamia has now became Iraq and Iran. So Saint Glittercock, if you want to bring a rabbi in, go for it. Right. Wait. That's a good point, but I'm not bringing that one up right now. Because I have a feeling she's going to.
You don't have to talk to. You can talk directly to me. So what I'm asking is, during when this was written, Exodus and Leviticus, during the time of Moses and Joshua, when they are traveling through the wilderness, you claim that they had stationary prisons. But how could that be the case if they are traveling in the wilderness?
Leviticus 24:12, and they put him in custody until the
Yeah.
decision of the Lord should be made clear to them. So they had a prison system.
No, putting somebody in custody isn't the same as having them in prison. For example, a slave can be in your custody.
No.
Yeah, that's exactly what that is. I just think I'm not trying to be funny. I just think you're
You're
wrong about
just playing
that.
semantics.
But I'm asking with the context, even if you don't believe the Bible, right? That's fine. How are there stationary prisons if they're traveling in the wilderness? That just simply doesn't make sense.
Did she claim stationary?
Yeah, I asked the location and she said, I'm not sure about the location. It didn't say it, but they
Well,
had prisons.
you're asking of a location is presupposing a stationary prison.
Well, if it's.
Yeah, I never once.
Jay.
Allahu Akbar. How you guys doing?
Hi, are you over 18?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, can I get your pronouns, please?
Yeah, oh yeah. He, him.
Okay, are you a believer of a God?
I believe there's one God.
Which one?
The one, yeah.
Which one?
Christian Orthodox God. The one.
Why
The
did
one
you
that
come and
created
say
the earth.
Allahu Akbar?
Well, why not? God is great.
Yeah, but
That's all
why
it means in
specific?
the
Why did you
language.
pick a different language to say it in? Why that one specifically?
Because I've been talking to Muslims for like the last 5 lives or something. 4 lives. Yeah.
Sarah, I'm going to let
Right.
you have a conversation with this one.
This one.
Goody.
I'm a he, him, by the way.
That's fantastic. Same here.
How are
I
you?
guess.
What's your... Awesome. What's your name? The god what? The god...
The god Sephiroth. From the Final Fantasy game.
Oh.
Yeah.
I haven't actually played the Final Fantasy series.
Oh, you should. They're pretty good. But I am curious.
Isn't there like...
do you believe that your god's good?
Anyways.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. I believe he's like a more moral arbiter, that like ethics are of him.
Gotcha. And so like... So when you say all good, what do we mean?
Like maximally good. Like I would say the persons of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit are ineffably tuned to the maximally good. That makes sense.
Gotcha. So like God could possibly say or command something that others could view as not good, right? Since he's maximally good.
People could view it as not good, but that doesn't mean it's not good. The person's just wrong, right? Like, because God
Gotcha.
has access to all truth across all things at all times, right? And we do not. We're individual agents with limited intellect. So, like, look at the flood as an example. You could witness that as like the destruction of 98% of life on the earth or whatever, right? But obviously that's not the case in the mind of God.
Well, no, because let's see, the flood, he was trying to wipe out the Nephilim, correct?
There's more to it than just that, but yeah, that's a part of it.
Gotcha. I was going to say, because if I remember correctly, the Nephilim were still around even after the flood, which means that he kind of wiped out everybody and failed to do the thing he tried to do.
Well, so I don't think he could flood the Nephilim in the first place because by definition, Nephilim are disembodied spirits. So how are you going to annihilate a spirit with water? So that's why
sure the Lord's all powerful.
I
I think he could have done that, right?
Well, he cast them out of heaven, didn't he?
I mean, yeah, but like, couldn't God have just like, I don't know, made them disappear? He's an all-powerful being. He could have
That's true,
specifically
yeah.
annihilated the Nephilim and wouldn't have had
But
to flood the earth. Well, possibly. Who knows?
It's written that God does not tempt, but God does allow for temptation for the sake of judgment.
So God doesn't do the tempting,
So
but he does allow tempting to occur. Like for
the
instance,
sake of
we could look at
judgment.
yeah. So I'm assuming we could like encompass that with the lying spirit, or what was the other times that he more or less tricked people into doing something.
You're going to try and say like there's a situation famously that gets used a lot anyways in argumentation, has to do with what's his name, King David and Satan. Is that the one you're talking about? It's like Ezekiel 2:7 or something.
No, I was just asking if we would fit those things into what you were talking about.
Oh, like God.
Like,
Well, you would have
where
to.
the temptation would be
like,
allowed by
steel
God
man.
in order for judgment.
Oh
I was
yeah, well
asking
I
you
would
if
actually
we could throw
I would
those
go
into
to yeah I would go to Ezekiel 2:7 for that. So basically, God is allowing for David to be tempted, but that does not mean that God is tempting David in the way that it's written. It doesn't make sense if you take that understanding, but it is written in the way where it says God tempts David, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people try and use that as an analogy for, you see, God tempts evil. God is the ontological creator of evil. See? It says it right here in Ezekiel 2:7, but when you take it in context with 2 Peter 1:13, where it says God doesn't tempt, then you have a situation where it makes sense that in other passages throughout the Bible, multiple times, it talks about God allowing for temptation so that judgment can occur. But that doesn't mean that he is the tempter in this situation.
Well, just really quick, because I am curious. So, like in Isaiah 45:7, when it states, "I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things." What does that mean to you?
I make peace and create evil, right?
Yeah.
So so what it's talking about is free choice. So in the concept of ontological status, we wouldn't believe that evil has ontology, right? So evil is actually a privation of peace, which is the opposite option in what you're saying, right? It's also the opposite option of disobedience, which is obedience to God. So this is like hearkening to the idea of obedience from the Garden of Eden when it comes to Adam in Genesis.
Gotcha. And just really quick, when you say ontological, what do you mean?
Evil doesn't exist. It's not a creature. It's not created. it's a privation of a thing. It's not a thing itself.
Wait, so ontological means the absence of
Existence.
something?
Ontology deals with existence. We're saying that evil doesn't exist. Evil is the privation of peace.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I got your definition, because every time that word gets thrown around, somebody has a different definition for it.
I think I'm using it right. So ontology is the study of existence.
I mean, here, if you want, I could pull it. Yeah.
Please,
I mean,
actually,
it looks
now
like
I'm
you're right.
second-guessing myself.
It states, well, or at least from what I'm pulling right now, relation to the branch of metaphysics dealing with the nature of being. So yeah, it would be
being, existence, yeah. So we don't, so you wouldn't say that, like, evil has, like, a locale, right? Evil is actually just the absence of that which is peace.
Gotcha.
Right? And we would say that Jesus is the Prince of Peace. He is that which is peace, right?
Yeah, I mean, that would be the Christian claim.
Mm-hmm. All right, so God is peace. God is good. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, if
what do
you're,
we
if
got
you're
here?
done,
What's
that's
next?
fine.
Tell me God's not good. Do it.
Well, I mean, it's going to depend on how you view that, right? So, like, I mean, I would give you Leviticus 25:44 through 46, or anything in general where God condones the use of slavery. I mean, I don't think we would view that to be a good
Sorry,
thing.
I just got a phone call. You're talking
good.
about slavery? So you're in Leviticus. I got that much. Okay, so
Leviticus, Exodus, Ephesians. I mean, it's referenced throughout the Bible.
Yeah, you're right. That's true. And so we would say that that's all Torah, right? It briefly mentions it in the New Testament, if I'm correct. I think it's in, might be in, what is it in? I want to say it's in Ephesians, but I might be wrong. But in the Old Testament, we have what we call the Deuterocanon, so it's secondary canon, right? We believe that even in Isaiah, you referenced Isaiah 46 as an example. In the later parts of Isaiah, it mentions a new covenant, right? That is what the New Testament is. Jesus is the fulfillment of the Old Testament. So we no longer, how would you say? We no longer subscribe to the Old Testament as salvation. We ascribe to Jesus Christ being salvation, right? So that means that we are... What about slavery, sorry?
Slavery is brought up in Matthew 8, 5 through 13, Matthew 10, 24 through 25, Matthew 18, 23 through 35, Matthew 21 through 16, Matthew 24, 45 through 51, Luke 7, 2 through 10, Luke 12, 44 through 48, Luke 17, 7 through 10, John 8, 34 through 35, Acts 2, 18, Acts 16, 16 through 19, Acts 22, 25 through 29, Romans 6, 16 through 22, 1 Corinthians 7, 20 through 24, 1 Corinthians 12, 13, Galatians 3, 28, Ephesians 6, 5 through 9, Colossians 3, 22 through 25, Colossians 4, 1, 1 Timothy 6, 1 through 2, Titus 2, 9 through 10, 1 Peter 2, 18 through 20, Revelations 6, 15, Revelations 3, 16, Revelations 8, 13. So it is mentioned quite a few times in the New Testament. And y'all can continue back on what you were talking about.
Oh,
That's
wow.
way more
You're
than the Old
just
Testament.
like...
That's fucking wild.
No, I think it's in the Old Testament a buttload.
Oh, yeah, it
Like
definitely is.
I would
in the Old
hazard a
Testament
guess that
as
it's
well.
more than what she just read. Yeah.
I have all the slavery verses.
Yeah, so imagine you are a person who has a young infant, okay, and you find yourself in a situation where you have no family whatsoever, and you're unable to feed this child. Would you put yourself into slavery to another person to feed your child and to satiate yourself if that was an option?
That's called indentured servitude, and it's outlined in Leviticus 25, 39 through 43, what happens for indentured servitude.
Yeah, so is that...
46 actually points out owning people as property, whereas in 39 through 43, it shows that if
indentured
somebody
servitude,
sells
there's a
themselves-
difference, yeah.
Yes. It shows differences between slavery and indentured servitude in the Bible.
And it also shows differences between Israeli people being slaves, which they cannot be, and rules for them as indentured servitude, as it pertains to indentured servitude as well, right? So there's a rule for outside populace, and there's a rule for inside populace in the Old Testament, correct?
Agreed.
All right. And so outside of the Israelite culture, so outside of the 12 tribes of Israel, what are the rules for slavery in any of those cultures?
In those cultures, it depends. Are we talking about indentured servitude, or are we talking about actual slavery?
Yeah, so in both, I would argue that the rule set in other cultures neighboring Israel, let alone around the world at the time, are going to be way, way worse than what's outlined in the Old Testament.
Indentured servitude, because Mesopotamia was what was surrounding quote unquote Israel. It wasn't called Israel at the time. Mesopotamia, their rule was for indentured servitude. I haven't actually fully touched on the slavery topic yet for Mesopotamia. But for indentured servitude, it was they were released on the 4th year. So they were kept as indentured servants for 3 years, and then on the 4th year they were released.
What did they get released into? Are you aware?
They were released with goods from the person.
Yeah, that's true too. But you know what they were released into? So I'm not sure if you're aware of like Mesopotamians had like a caste system, right?
No,
so when you were released from slavery, you weren't like a de facto 100% citizen yet, right? There's like gradations of caste systems.
So
you graduated from being owned by somebody to being like an untouchable in the Indian caste system.
You were considered a free commoner. That is what you were considered.
Okay, dude. I'm sure the folks that write textbooks who love Mesopotamia, because remember, this is Baal and Moloch, right? And like that type of stuff. So those folks are going to say that they're released into a free class. Yes, you're right.
They were called free commoners because there was three different castes.
Yeah.
I am quite literally, this is what I'm researching. I have been researching this for the past month. I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, those encyclopedias and textbooks and most all the information on the internet is going to be absolutely 100% coherent with Mesopotamia. You need to look at some of the esotericism, I would suggest,
looking
of the
into
Mesopotamians.
the actual Code of Hammurabi, like the actual Code of Hammurabi, so the laws Mesopotamia followed. I've already looked into the Code of Ur-Nammu. I've looked into the Code of Lipitishtar. Have you heard of either one of those?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Have you looked into oh goodness gracious, what's that king's name? Wasn't there a king that left a diary? Oh my goodness. What's that fella's name? I can't for the life of me remember. There's a king who left a diary. It's like basically thoughts on well, I would assume it's like his personal thoughts on his biography of his time, right? There's some very interesting stuff in that. It's linked to gosh, I'm gonna have to leave the app. Okay, I'll come back up in like 5 minutes, okay?
Okay. Oh, both of them.
It was Drew first, so chill. If you could hang out on mute until we're done with Drew, that would be great. Thank you.
Hold on,
Drew,
wait
are you
a
18
second.
plus?
What are we being done with? What are we doing?
Conversation. Are you 18 plus?
Yeah.
Wonderful. May we get your pronouns, please?
Hold on here. No. You fucking niggers, I didn't.
All right. Chill. Are you 18 plus?
Yeah.
May we get your pronouns, please?
For simplicity's sake, you can use he, him, but like I'm a little bit different because I just let people call me whatever they want.
What do you prefer?
He, him is fine, but sometimes
Okay.
I roleplay as like a femboy, so sometimes I get called she, but it's like it doesn't really matter.
So he, him is what you'd prefer.
Well, no, I literally don't have a preference, but like I said, for simplicity's sake, you could just say I prefer he, him.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fine. Do you believe in a God?
Yeah, I think. I believe in the character of Jesus.
So you follow the Bible?
Yeah, but I'm not really religious. It's like I specifically focus on the character of Jesus, like what he said and did.
Cool. So my friend Ace and my friend Sephiroth are going to have a conversation with you. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Wonderful.
Sarah, you're gonna take this one. I gotta go do something real quick.
Fantastic. So did he already? What are we on?
Yeah, he is a Jesus follower, but not necessarily religious.
So you're a Christian that doesn't want to call yourself a Christian, or how does
Well,
this work?
I really just don't like the religious connotation to it because I think that, they asked Jesus what the most important command was, and he didn't give a religious answer. He said love was the most important command, and like that's kind of, I fuck with that. Like, I think love is the most important thing.
Gotcha. Like, do you believe in God the Father, or is it just Jesus?
Well, I believe in Jesus as like the revelation of the Father, but the mystery of like who the Father is, like it's kind of out of my league, I feel like. So I'm not sure about it. Because Jesus said nobody has seen the Father except the Son, but then he said, "I'm the Father and I are one, and I'm showing you the Father by like he was like showing Jesus was showing us what the Father is like by like obeying the Father or something like that. I don't know. It's kind of a mystery. It's a little bit out of my league, so I just try to focus on Jesus.
Gotcha. So, do you look at Jesus as God?
Yeah, I think he's the Word of God, basically, like because there's so much religious confusion. But like, if I were God, logically, what I would do is I would personify all of the words into one character, and then that character be the standard, so there's no confusion. So I think that, logically speaking, I think that Jesus is God revealing his true character.
Gotcha. So just real quick, I kind of agree with you, but seeing as though there's about 45,000 different denominations of Christianity, I think that God kind of failed in the not confusing people.
I hate that, bro. But listen, I think that God has a logical solution for that because denomination means divide. And I went to churches and I've gotten kicked out of churches because I'm like, no, you guys need to get rid of denominations because it should be like McDonald's. It should be the Church of Christ. And then like different locations can have different denominational preferences, like a different menu for different areas. But there should only be like they're not united. Every church is its own kingdom. There's no hierarchy, there's no unity. I think that the solution that God laid out in the end of the Bible in Revelation was the marriage of Jesus, like the fulfillment of the Solomonic prophecy, where all of the religions were kind of married together. And I think that's the solution for all these different religions and all that, because every denomination is like its own Christian religion. Like there's so many differences. But if the one ritual that all of the religions share is the marriage ritual. So if they all joined into one kingdom, and they were joined to Jesus through marriage, like basically like a kingdom-wide marriage, then all of those contradictions would be resolved because it's like, believe whatever you want. We're all joined to the truth of Jesus, so we know the truth is with us. Because I hate denominations. I hate it, bro. I talk shit on denominations all the time.
You do realize marriage came before Christianity, right?
I mean, I'm not a historian. I try not to get hung up on like super specific. I'm just all the main point I made there was like all religion. Marriage could have come before Christianity because marriage came before Jesus. I get that, but what I'm saying is all religions, they all seem to honor the marriage ritual. That's what's important. It's like the link that can link everything together.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say it links back to Jesus or the Abrahamic God. It's polytheist did it. Polytheist, which was 40,000 BCE when that came to be.
Yeah, and
They
that's
would
fine.
practice.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
totally okay with that. Like I was talking with a religious scholar about Christmas. I'm like, yeah, Christmas has pagan origins, but just because
yeah,
something has certain origins doesn't mean God can't use it for good. Like God can take something like Christmas, which definitely has pagan origins, and turn it into something good. Like God can do that. So like marriage
is
might not
based
have
around the winters.
yeah, yeah, marriage might not have its origin in Christianity. That's fine. But the point I'm making is that it seems that all of the major religions and even non-religious people, they all kind of see marriage as like a ritual. Like they all, even if it's not viewed in like as a religious ritual. By ritual, I just mean a set of actions you take, like some sort of tradition, some sort of commemorative like occasion, a special occasion. And if we look at what Solomon did in the Old Testament, now he fell, he was corrupted by these idols, right? So it didn't work out for Solomon, but he married all of these, there was peace because he married all these daughters into one temple, right? Now, so if Jesus does the same thing, if he comes back and he says, "Look, I'm Jesus, I'm coming back. I don't care about your religious identity, your country of origin. I told you in the Bible when I came 2,000 years ago, love is the number one command. Join into my kingdom. You can be whoever you want to be, but join into my kingdom and you'll be joined to the truth of God." And it's simple. Then all the religions can literally coexist.
So you believe that all Jesus cares about is love.
Well, there's a lot of things he cares about, but he said love is the number one command because if you truly do a good job with love, he said you fulfill all the law and all of the prophets, right? Like, okay, let me give you an example. Let's say as a Christian, now I'm not a traditional Christian, but let's say, I believe in Jesus and there's a Muslim woman I fall in love with, right? And she wants me to, you know, get involved with her in some of her Muslim, she wants me to 10 times a day get on a prayer mat and pray with her. Even though I'm a Christian and that's not part of Christianity, because I love her, I might make that concession. Like, yeah, I'll play along with Islam. I'll pray with you 10 times a day during set times, right? And if I do that, maybe her heart will be moved to say, yes, I adopt Jesus as the truth, right? So it's like you got to give a little to get a. It's like the art of making concessions. So in that instance, me and this Islamic girl, we're not religiously compatible, but for the sake of love, we make concessions, right? And the Bible says something very interesting about this. It says, the non believing husband is made holy by the believing wife, and the non believing wife is made holy by the non believing husband. So if Christianity is true, Christianity could be the bedrock of all the religions because if they marry into the kingdom of Jesus, they're affirmed by the truth of Jesus through the covenant of marriage based upon the number one command, which is love. And you should love everybody because I believe that love is not something you earn, love is a necessity.
Wait, love's a necessity?
Yeah, without love, there's no motivation to live.
That's an interesting claim.
Well, even if you're not loved, like people who aren't loved by anybody and can't find a way to even love them, you at least have to love yourself, right? Like, I mean, if you've ever felt love, like I can't imagine a reality where I would want to live for eternity and not get to feel actual genuine love from something or someone, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, we have sociopaths, psychopaths. These are people that can't understand certain emotions or can't feel them entirely. And they function. They're functioning people.
Yeah, man, there's all sorts of characters, bro. I agree with you.
So, like, they exist without love or empathy. Um, so, I mean, I'm not going to say that it's always a necessity, right? Because those people exist.
Well, I mean, those people, I think actually I would kind of, it's a little bit counterintuitive, but I would kind of disagree with that because I think that the worse a person is, the more they need love because like I think of Israel. Israel is doing all this evil stuff, and I'm like, well, maybe God chose Israel because Israel is the worst. They won't like hearing that, but maybe Israel is the worst. So the worse you are, the more of God's love you need, because the more evil or the more disabled you are, like, those I view these characters that are evil as they're mentally unwell. I view it as like a medical disability that they have because their brains aren't working correctly. And I think that they need love more than anybody else because they need therapy, they need healing, bro. Like, they got to be controlled.
Gotcha. I do have a question, and this was based off before. I'm just gonna kind of gloss over some things that was said real quick. Um, God, right? God the Father. In the Old Testament, he outlines like certain laws, things that you are to do and things you are not to do. Do you think that if he found any of these things to be flawed, immoral, or just not up to par, do you think that when he sent Jesus, Jesus would have been the one to correct it? Well, I guess I should say when he sent himself, he would have
Well, there,
corrected it.
yeah. So you're talking about like the moral issues with some of the Old Testament stuff, right?
Yeah.
So like, I actually did I want to say like a thesis on slavery, and what I found is I found like 15 major verses that support the doctrine that God. I mean, I can give you a link to it, but I wrote a whole thing on the fact that God does not endorse involuntary slavery, and then the revelation that I got because it's a logical contradiction, was that what God was talking about, first of all, I think he was tricking the Jews because the Jews are very xenophobic. They're very hateful and xenophobic. So if God had a plan to get other families and religions grafted into Israel under Jesus, then he might have to outsmart their xenophobia. And one of the ways he could do that was like say, oh, hey, yeah, he could test them and be like, and I actually found like 7 different verses which says sometimes God deceives people. So like what's God's intention? So I think that the Jews were tricked because they set a precedent that they can allow slaves, which means they allowed other nations and tribes and religions to enter into their families, so that later on God could come on the scene and be like, listen, if you truly love somebody, you are bound to your commitments. Relationships are full of boundaries that you're bound to. Like, if I'm in love with this Islamic girl, she's probably not going to want me to eat pork. She's going to be like, man, dude, I know you're American, I know you're a Christian, but I need you to obey. Slaves obey. I need you to obey this like demand that you don't eat pork because it really offends, it like kind of messes up my vibes. And I'd be like, yeah, I love you, so I'll make that concession and so I think what God was trying to say there, and I think what God is always trying to say, is like he has so much of a higher purpose for the things he says. So when we look at like something like slavery, the Bible says wherever the spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty, right? And then,
Well, wait, really quick before you continue, because I am curious and I don't want to get too far off topic. When we say love, do you think it would be a loving thing for you to go and trick somebody? Like, let's say that you and your girlfriend or whatever are together, right? And you say something that you know is just outright wrong, right? Like you trick her into doing something.
well, it
Would we
depends.
consider that to be loving?
If we're on equal footing, you're right. But the thing is, we're not on equal footing with God. He's so much smarter. So, like, a better way to think about it would be like when parents trick their kids into behaving. So, like,
Well, wait
the
a
two.
second. So if God is correct, right? Like, let's say God exists. I'm an atheist, so I don't believe it. But let's say that God does exist. Now, you and I are capable of understanding, in a human degree, what love is, right? And so when we go to God, well, we can safely assume, that if a God exists, his love would be 10 times greater than human love, right? And
Yeah,
so
well, it's probably
what you and
infinite.
I
Yeah,
would look at as like, if you love somebody and you trick them, that wouldn't be love, right?
I disagree with that
God would
because
be,
I
go
disagree with
ahead.
that. I think that pranks are part of friendship. Pranks are how you keep people, because in order for love to work, there has to be humility. And one of the things, if you look at how children behave with each other, they're constantly pranking each other, right? So if God is inherently innocent in the same sense that a child is inherently innocent, if God is playfully pranking people into doing the right things, that's not because God's intentions are innocent and good. It's for the best ultimate outcome. then it's not evil for God to do that because God's intentions are holy.
Well, wait a second, real quick. Do you know what special pleading is?
Yeah, it's when you make a special case for it, but I actually wrote an entire book on why holy logic transcends good and evil morality.
Wait, was
It's
it a
in
thesis or was it a book?
it's you can read
Or
it.
is it two different things that we're talking about at the moment?
No, I wrote a book that makes an objectively logical conclusion why holy morality surpasses good and evil because holy morality considers the ultimate outcome, while good and evil morality only considers the immediate effects. But you need both. You need good and evil oversimplified morality for immersion in the.
Zero, check disco.
Wait, before I do that, chill, I have a question. And it's gonna let me know how the rest of this possible conversation may or may not go. You'll have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, go ahead.
Chill. There you go. Okay, so it's a hypothetical scenario. Okay. In the
Not
hypothetical scenario, you're sitting on your couch in your home. And for the sake of how we've been talking so far, Jesus comes to you, spiritual form, whatever form you want. And he proves to you beyond the shadow of a doubt it is indeed the man that you follow, the God that you believe in. And he tells you, you have a kid in this hypothetical scenario, by the way. And Jesus tells you, I've seen what will happen to your child when he goes old, or when he grows old. And he knows that your child is going to be this unruly son of a bitch, just a horrible human being. He's going to go and do horrible actions. And he tells you, he gives you one command, unalive the child. Don't ask questions, just do it. Are you going to listen to Jesus? Or are you going to be like, well, I could possibly change this outcome? What would you pick?
so if Jesus came and proved himself like it was definitely Jesus, right? And
Mm-hmm.
he explained to me like, hey, here's the future, and he showed me a future of my child doing a bunch of evil acts, right? He was like,
Mm-hmm.
I need you to unalive your own child, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like in this scenario, are you saying it's the only way?
Basically, yeah. It's Jesus giving you one very simple command. It's unalive your kid.
Okay, so
I'm
how
asking
many?
you, would you unalive your kid or would you try and convince God otherwise?
Well, I would actually try and convince God otherwise because in the Bible, that's what happens. God says, God is always testing people. So God did a lot of things like Sodom and Gomorrah. If there's just one righteous person, and God always, if you look in the Bible, every time somebody asks God to make a concession for the sake of mercy, hey, will you repent of this, God? I always see God be like, okay, so God repented of this judgment. God repented of this judgment. God repented of this judgment. So
Wait, when
we
did he repent for the flood?
He gave them like 100 years before they